if you're a betting man, who is the Lakers head coach at the start of the season? If you're a betting man.
I'm a betting man. I'm going to say J.J. Redick.
What's going on? It's Keyshawn, and welcome to my show, Undisputed Presents All Facts and No Breaks. Joining me today is a three-time NBA champion, former Coach of the Year, and a Laker legend in Byron Scott. But before we get going, I want to remind everyone that's out there about our All Facts Pod giveaway. Win a signed football by me. Not that it means a whole lot, but it does mean a lot to me. And how you can win this: you enter, you subscribe to All Facts Pod on YouTube. Send us a screenshot. We'll pick a winner after we hit the 100,000 subscribers mark. All right, that's enough of this right now. Let's get to the show. What's up, B?
What's up, Key? How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. I'm just
good.
enjoying the playoffs, so to speak.
Yes, I am too.
You know, my son Keyshawn Jr. also will be joining us, chiming in from time to time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Throwing out questions and
I know he got a bunch of them too.
Yeah, a bunch of them. And asking, as he would call it, old head things.
Well, that's cool because I'm an old head, so you can ask you could ask some of them old head questions.
How are you enjoying so far the playoffs?
You know what, Keyshawn? This has been one of the most exciting playoffs that I've seen in years. A lot of ups and downs. A lot of injuries, unfortunately. But that goes with the game of basketball in any sport, especially when you get this time of the year. But really enjoying the excitement of the games. Man, I think I've missed probably a couple playoff games, but really, really enjoying it.
So you grew up in Inglewood, California.
Yep.
I don't know if to call it. How do I say it? Do I say L.A.? Because I say L.A. Even though it's Inglewood, it's like one signal like from being in L.A.
Yeah,
so do I say a suburb of L.A. or do I just say Inglewood?
You just say Inglewood.
So you grew up in Inglewood.
I grew up in Inglewood.
Grew up in Inglewood, went to Morningside High, which is a stone throw away from the farm.
Correct.
That you played for the Lakers in. What was that like, though, being in L.A. or Inglewood and just like right down the street from the farm?
Well, you know what, Key? It was a dream come true because all my years when I was growing up, I was a big Laker fan. And like you said, it was just a stone, throw away. I lived literally like 14 blocks from the Forum. So I would go to the Forum, me and some of my buddies every now and then to Laker games, and we didn't have no tickets, so we just tried to sneak in, and we would be successful sometime and unsuccessful some other times. But once we would get in, I would get a chance to see some of these guys up close. And, going through high school, I always said, I'm going to be there one day. Not as a Laker, but I know I was, in my mind, I'm going to be playing in this arena one day. And, lo and behold, I go to Arizona State. I get drafted by the Clippers and traded to the Lakers. And, man, I ain't never been so happy in my life. So to be able to play for your home team, a team that you admired, a team that you love, right from the get-go, it was a dream come true.
So the Clippers at the time that you were drafted were in San Diego, had yet to move to L.A.
Correct.
If they were in L.A. and being drafted and you were drafted by them and they were playing the sports arena, would you be as excited?
No, but I would have been excited because, number one, to fulfill the dream of being drafted, first of all.
Yes.
But if I'm drafted by the Clippers, I was, even when I was drafted by the Clippers and they were San Diego, I was like, well, you know what? It's close to home. I'm in the NBA, now the work starts. But when you get traded to your hometown team that you've been loving for so many years, it would have been a little bit of a downer compared to that going to the Lakers. But I mean, I was excited when I was drafted by the Clippers because, again, I was fulfilling the dream. So
when you drafted by the Clippers, but then you become a Laker, they trade Norm Nixon away, a beloved Laker at the time.
Right.
How did it all go down? Like, what was the call like? Or did you just be like, whatever?
No, it was a trip because I'm going to work out, every morning, and the phone rings one day, and it's Jerry West. And Jerry West said, young man, we've been trying to make a trade for you for the past couple of weeks. If this trade don't happen today by 2 o'clock, then we're going to move on. And so I told my mom, of course, and I'm excited. So I'm in the house until 2 o'clock. Phone doesn't ring. 2:15, phone doesn't ring. 2:30, I started to say, I'm walking out the house. I'm going to go work out. And my mom was like, he going to call. I said, Mom, he said 2 o'clock. It's 2:30. So by the time I walk outside and get to the car, my mom runs outside and said, a telephone. And I come back inside and I pick up the phone and I said, hello? He said, young man. To this day, the logo, Jerry West, still calls me young man. Young man, welcome to the Los Angeles Lakers. We just made a trade for you. I'm going to put Jack Kern on the phone, our trainer. You get your shoe size, jersey, all that stuff. And, man, when I got off the phone, I was still kind of in shock. So I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm a Laker. And she said, I told you. Mom, when I told him what was going on, she said, he going to call. You're going to be a Laker and all that stuff. And when it happened, man, and when I hung up the phone and went to the game that night, it was just like I was just floating on a cloud.
So you get traded. Now you basically join Showtime, right?
Right.
So now it's you, Magic, the Cap, Kareem, and James Worthy, Big Game James.
Yeah.
You went on to win 3 championships with them. Was it 85, 86? 85, 87, and 88.
Correct.
Y'all missed out in 86.
Right.
Y'all could have had 4 in a row, but
we missed out in 89 because me and Magic both got hurt.
That's right, in 89 because y'all got hurt.
Yeah.
So I could have possibly been 5 in a row. Damn, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Give me a story from that time, though, like something. I don't want all the dirt because some of the dirt I know, but what was so fun about being on Showtime and traveling or whatever the case would be?
You know what? The team was just, it really was a family. Everybody loved each other. Everybody wanted each other to do well. We all pulled for each other. Me, Magic, and Coop, they all called us the Three Musketeers because we always were together. We hung out together. We went to dinners, movies, and stuff like that on the road. We just was a great family. And it to this day, we get together and we have, functions and dinners and things of that nature. And I mean, I think most people saw the Showtime reunion in Hawaii. It wasn't fake, man. Everybody, 4 guys couldn't make it. Out of every guy that Magic got in contact with, only 4 guys couldn't make the trip. Out of I think it was probably about 60 of us. And he wanted to have every teammate there that he won championships with in the 80s. So it was such a family, man. It was such a great atmosphere. We pushed each other. We held each other accountable. We made each other better. But we had one incident that was a great story that I got to tell. And Pat Riley was one of the greatest coaches I've ever seen, ever been around. And you're talking about a coach holding you accountable. I mean, he would cuss me out, Magic out, Coop out, because he know our 3 guys, we were kind of kept the ball rolling. We kept each other engaged. We just kept everybody else engaged. But we was also kind of Pat Riley's whipping boys because he know we could take it. And we were going to come back strong, right? And we had an incident in the locker room one time where he was jumping on guys and he was just cussing guys out. And he said something to Kareem, and Cap, you ain't doing it. And Cap had his head down and Cap turned around and looked up at him, right? And that stare, Riley said, and such, you ain't doing this and that. I mean, he went away from Cap, right? And we was like, Cap, what was that all about? Cap was like, man, I played with Rouse. He better leave me alone. I'll knock him, So Cap was the only one that nobody messed with on our team back in the day.
No, he was
serious.
Yeah, I ran into Cap a couple years ago, and I was just checking him out from a distance. I'm like, yeah, that's probably not somebody you want to mess with.
No,
so
not back in the day.
So in 87-88 team.
Yeah.
Is that the best team in the history of the NBA? Because you still got, obviously, people who say Jordan, 70-plus, or Golden State that didn't win it.
Correct.
But are the Lakers the best that was ever assembled, that 87-88 team?
I think so. And everybody says, well, you're a little biased. Well, you look at the team that we had, out there. And this wasn't a team that was, like with Kevin Durant, who I love, he goes to Golden State to join that super team. LeBron goes to Miami. These guys were all, drafted. You had one trade, really. That trade was Kareem getting to the Lakers. Magic was drafted by the Lakers. James Worthy was drafted by the Lakers. I was via trade, but, all those guys kind of came together to form, which I still think to this day is one of the greatest teams, if not the greatest teams to ever play basketball. You can definitely argue, Chicago team. For me, Golden State winning 73 games that year, that's great. But you don't back it up by winning the championship, then it don't matter to me.
Right. Yeah, when you think about it, though, Kurt Rambis, Cooper, Byron Scott, Michael Thompson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson. I'm missing somebody.
AC Green.
AC Green. Scooter McGee was on the team?
No. We
So
didn't have
Mike wasn't on the team.
Mike was on the team my first year, and then they traded Mike.
They traded Mike, so he wasn't on that team.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else was on the team. I know I'm missing
Wes
somebody.
Matthews on that team.
Wes Matthews was on the team.
Milt Wagner was on that team.
Milt Wagner was on the team.
Billy Thompson was on that team.
Thompson was,
I mean, we had a guy now, Mike Schmeck.
Yeah, I remember Mike Schmeck.
Big man, Mike Schmeck, Chuck Nevis, who was like 7'5".
Chuck Nevis.
Big Chuck.
Stop, man.
Hey, look,
I know you. Come on now.
I'm just telling you the
5
names.
minutes a game.
Well, I'm just telling you the names. I ain't saying who played. I'm just telling you the names.
Keyshawn, Chuck Neville was about 9 feet tall. He might have been one of the biggest humans I ever seen.
Yeah. But we love walking through the airports before we got private planes. We love walking through the airports because everybody will always ask him that famous question: "How tall are you?"
Man, that dude was taller than Kareem, and Kareem was 7'2".
Yeah, 7'6".
I've never seen a human being. You got to think, I was a kid, and so he's 7'6". I'm looking at this dude. I'm like, there's no way.
7'6".
There's just no way you could be that tall.
Yeah, phenomenal. But 7'6", great guy. But yeah, I'm just telling you the guys we had on the team.
Yeah, y'all might have literally had the best team.
Yeah,
ever.
I believe so.
I mean, I know really Jordan beat that team.
Right. Well, he didn't beat that team. I mean, the team he beat. I mean, we didn't have Kareem. Obviously,
oh yeah, the
Kareem
Cap
was
wasn't
gone.
there.
We had Vlade Divac, who was good. We had Sam Perkins.
Yep,
at
Sam
the time.
Perkins.
Michael Thompson wasn't there anymore. So you look at that 87,
no, he
88
didn't beat
team.
That. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he didn't beat
that
that
87,
team.
88 team. Man, that team was awesome.
You don't think the Miami Heat would have gave y'all a run with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade?
Yeah, I think they would have gave us a run. They wouldn't have won. They wouldn't have won.
No, they wouldn't have beat them.
They wouldn't have beat us, but they would have gave us a run. You had Chris Bosh. I mean, they had a great team. There's no doubt about that.
They wouldn't have beat them. He's being modest. The Lakers would have swept them.
I was giving them one. I said they might win one game.
I think y'all would have swept them.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying they might win one.
Because if you think about it, who gonna guard who? Like when you start playing who gonna guard game,
right.
Like first of all, at the point, who's gonna go? Okay, so you say
they have nobody to guard Magic.
That's what I'm saying. So you say I'm gonna put LeBron on Magic.
They had nobody to guard James Worthy.
So who gonna guard big game? Well, I'm gonna put so and so on big. I'm gonna put Bosh on big game.
Then who gonna guard Kareem?
Who gonna guard the Cap? Well, I don't know. Who gonna guard Byron Scott? Well, we can put D Wade. Okay. Y'all still got holes.
Yeah. It's mismatches all over the place.
Yeah,
and that's why I think we had such a great team. And we could play any style of basketball you wanted.
And you got to think, Keyshawn, the brain trust of the Miami Heat was the same coach that coached them.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that is true.
Exactly.
Riley,
Exactly.
Well, have you heard of this saying, like, we're done with the 80s, we're done with the 90s?
My kid.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know why, but I've heard that.
What do you think? Well,
So
my question is, do you guys think in today's era they would be able to compete with you guys? Like, because you're saying, they wouldn't be able. You'd sweep them, is what you just told me.
I don't think they'd be able to compete with us in our era.
No,
because you got to look at the rules too. This is about the softest brand of basketball that you can play right now. Impeding progress when you run across the lane. Back in our day, you go to the lane, you getting hit. It was just that was a rule in the NBA. You go in the lane, you getting hit, and everybody expected that. So today's basketball, even like I said, I enjoy the game. I've been watching all the playoff games, and I'm enjoying the excitement of the game. But when you compare errors, you got to also think about the rules in those errors as well. And if you're going to have teams in the 2020s trying to play against teams in the 1990s, then you're going to have to adjust the rules because it's unfair for them to try to play our rules back in those days. Kind of like it was almost unfair for us to play their rules because they're much more athletic than we were back in those days.
Gotcha. Who was the biggest trash talker you played against?
Larry Bird.
I've heard
without a doubt. Larry Bird. He would talk trash for 38 minutes, and that's if he played 38 minutes. He just talked trash the whole game. And I said this when we played them and when we did the 30 for 30, right? And they did Boston Celtics Laker rivalry. I said, I guess it really ain't trash talking if you can back it up. Because that man would tell you where he was going on the basketball court and tell you that he was going to catch it and shoot and wasn't a damn thing you could do about it. And 9 times out of 10, that's what he would do.
So you played for the Pacers, which is in the Eastern Conference Final now.
Yeah.
In 1994, you was able to hit the game-winning shot that led them to their first appearance in the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah.
You brought some veteran leadership. What was the difference, though, from the Laker teams to that particular team that you joined?
Well, that particular team just didn't have an experience in winning.
Yeah.
They didn't know what it took. I remember when I got off the plane, when I landed in Indiana, and the reporters were there, and they asked me, number one, why'd I choose Indiana? And I said, well, look at the squad. You got the Davis boys, you got Rick Smith, you got Reggie Miller, you have Pooh Richardson. I said, and you got one of the best coaches that ever played the game in Larry Brown. I said, so for me, it was easy. He said, so what's your expectations? I said, Eastern Conference Finals. And the reporter looked at me and said, these guys have never won a first-round playoff series, and you're saying Eastern Conference Finals. So my whole thing then, when Larry came to me and said, we want to sign you, he said, we need two things from you. We need your scoring off the bench, and we need your experience. We need you to teach these guys what it takes to win. And so me getting off that plane, saying Eastern Conference Finals, I wanted them to know right away that, guys, we've been underachieving. I think we have enough talent here to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I wanted to put that and plant that in their head, right away.
So they're in the Eastern Conference Final this year. They returned back after a long hiatus off.
Yeah.
Who wins, Boston or Indy?
My heart is with Indy. I would love for Indy to win this series and get to the NBA Finals again. But if I'm going by, looking at both squads, I got to go with the Celtics. I think the Celtics can score with Indy. I think the Celtics are a better defensive team than Indy, but I love what I saw with Indiana in the playoffs so far as on the defensive end. I think it's going to be a very exciting series, but I got to go with the Boston Celtics. So
after you retired from playing basketball, you quickly made a transition to coaching. You became an assistant coach in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. And then after that, you wind up as the head coach with the New Jersey Nets. I almost called them New Jersey Devils.
Right.
I'm so used to I'm so used to New Jersey now, Devils and Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah.
And you led them, first head coaching experience that you had, but you led them to the championship finals twice, back-to-back years in 2002, 2003. How was you able to make that transition so fast and get them up to speed to at least get to the finals?
Yeah, I mean, again, great tutelage in my playing days, being able to watch and observe Pat Riley for so many years. He was the first coach that told me that he put that coaching bug in my ear when I was 26 years old. He told me one day you're going to be a coach, and you're going to have to deal with all these, situations. So going to Indiana and playing for Larry, Brown, during practice, he would ask me in certain situations, what would you guys do? And I would go over a lot of the things, especially defensively, on how we would play certain post players, certain pick and roll. And he told me the same thing. He said, man, I think one day you should be a coach. I think you'd be real good at it. So when you have those two guys, saying that about you, it starts to, get your mind, thinking about, life after basketball as far as a player is concerned. And I really just started keeping a journal of everything I would like to do and things I wouldn't do if I became a head coach.
So you got another opportunity after New Jersey to become a head coach in 2008 with the New Orleans Hornets, which changed name 1,000 times already since. And you were coach of the year.
Yeah.
How was that transition for you?
That was a great transition because I learned a lot from being in New Jersey, being my first head coaching stint. I made a lot of mistakes. I was a young coach, and I know I could have been better as a coach. And I think coming from that situation, going to New Orleans really helped me. Was able to draft a young player named Chris Paul. We were able to trade and get a guy named Tyson Chandler, who I love. We had David West already there. Went out in the free agency and got Peja Stojakovic, which really kind of strengthened our team. And that experience was great because this was the closest group of guys that I had to when I played with the Lakers. This team was like a family. They really loved each other, and they did a lot of things together. And I always tell guys to this day, I would love to have a team with really good, talent, but great chemistry. Because I think you'll win all the time. You got great chemistry. You got guys who really, truly care about each other and want to play with each other. So that experience was great, and then I was rewarded by getting Coach of the Year.
So you get Coach of the Year, then you leave New Orleans again in 2010. You're like, oh, man, I'm getting ready to get LeBron. Oh, this is going down.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, after you're hired by the Cavs, LeBron saying, I think I'm going to go to Miami.
Yeah.
Now you stuck in Cleveland without LeBron James. How did that transition go for you?
And that one hurt me. That one hurt me, Key, because I really, but I thought I was in a no-lose situation, too. I said, if LeBron comes back, we got a chance to win a championship. If he doesn't, I'm talking to the brain trust, and they saying, listen, if he leaves, which they did not think, they said he will not leave. They didn't plan this out real good. You know what I mean? Because if they had any inkling of him leaving, or even thought about the possibility that he could leave, then they would have made a sign and trade with Miami. Because we lost him and didn't get anything back. So I'm thinking to myself, if we do lose him, they already talked to me about giving me a chance to really rebuild this organization.
Did you have a conversation with him at all prior to him deciding to go to Miami?
No, I talked to him briefly at a gym. He was working out, just introduced myself. We gave each other a hug and everything, and I didn't mention nothing about coming back or anything like that. I just wanted to tell him, hey, just here, wanted to see how you was doing and blah, 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 just show my face. But the day of the decision, I'm in the office with the brain trust, and they was like, he ain't leaving. I said, well, I could find out. And they was like, how? I said, I could find out. So I called Chris Paul.
Yeah.
I went in my office, and I said, CP, what's he going to do? And CP said, I'll call you back, Coach. So he called me back in like 5 minutes. He said, Coach, he gone. Just like that.
Wow.
And I went in the office, and I said, guys, we might want to start preparing for him not coming back. What are you talking about? I said, I just, got news.
Yeah, I talked to a bird.
Yeah, I said, I talked to somebody who knows him pretty well, and they said he ain't coming back. And they was like, he come back. I said, okay.
Do you think, though, if you could have had a conversation, you probably could have persuaded him to maybe stick around?
Key, I think his mind was made up.
Yeah.
I think he was gone way before the season even started. I think this was all in the plan when they all played in the Olympics together, and they spent that time together. I think him and Chris and D-Wade talked about, man, if we were all together, and I think they pretty much had a good idea that, listen, our contracts are ending at the same time. We can come to Miami. So I don't think there was anything I could say or anybody else that was going to change his mind.
So you got to play with Kobe his rookie year, and you said you knew he was going to be great from the start.
I did.
There's a clip we found from both of you in 1997.
Man.
This is my man. This is
No
Showboat.
doubt.
We call him Showboat, but y'all know him as Kobe Bryant. This is my main man. I feel like a father, though. I mean, this is my boy. I mean, we play together. We sit on the bench by each other. We're always talking. Then when I look at, how you go down in the locker room and they list everybody's age, not the age, but their date of birth, and I see 78.
78.
And I'm like, I'm twice as old as this kid, But this kid right here, mark my words now, and I said this earlier in the season, is going to be unbelievable. I mean, and I'm not saying that because you hear it. I see him every day in practice.
I'm gonna slide him a couple $100.
I see him every day in practice. I see how this kid works. I see how he, after practice, how he's still in the gym before practice. I know he goes to Pacific Palisades and shoot in their gym after school. He is just a tremendous talent.
It's a great clip. So Kobe gave you a shout out in his Mamba Mentality book, mentioning how much he learned from you. What was it like for you the first time you faced off against him in practice?
Oh, in practice?
Yeah.
It was like, whoa. I mean, I've played against some 18-year-olds when I was 25 and 26 and 19 and 20-year-olds, but at that time I'm 35, 36, and this 18-year-old kid gets the ball, and I was like, oh my God. He went around me, and then Coop could tell you the same thing. He went around Coop, when
Coop was
no,
playing?
but Jerry West brought Coop in.
Oh, to see what
he could do, but he brought when they brought Kobe in for a workout.
Yeah,
they called Coop.
Oh, yeah.
And Coop was a defensive. Yeah.
So
he
Coop guarded him and was
presence.
like, man, this kid. I was like, and Coop was older, but Coop was still like, man, this kid's gonna be unbelievable. and I just, Junior, I had a chance, like I said on the clip, that I was with him every day.
So you could see it.
You could just, Stevie Wonder could have saw it, man. I'm telling you, the dude every day would be in the gym shooting before the lights were on, because I would go to the gym early, because I was 36, and I would come there to just, warm up and stretch. You know what I'm talking about, Keith? I had to get there early, and I would hear the ball bouncing, and I would look out there, and I went in, I was like, Gary B, man, tell him to turn the lights on. I said, how long has he been here? Oh, he was here waiting for me when I got here, and that was the trainer.
Yeah.
So I saw his work ethic, and I saw how he was on the bench, how he would, ask me questions about the game and how would you guard this guy, and he was always thinking about basketball. So I knew he was going to be great. I just knew it from day one.
So you were on Undisputed a couple weeks ago with me and Skip Bayless.
Yep.
And we asked you the question about the Lakers because they're still looking for a damn coach.
Right.
Who should be the coach of the Lakers? And you said, well, LeBron James should coach the Lakers.
Right.
Still looking for a coach. Do you still feel that today that LeBron should coach the Lakers?
Well, I said that I was serious, but I wasn't serious.
Of course.
Because obviously they can't do that.
Yeah, rules and stuff.
But to this day, at this particular time, I'm still, I'm a big Mark Jackson fan. Still not sure why. I got an idea that he hasn't gotten an opportunity to coach in this league again. But the name that I keep hearing now, which I was very excited about, is Sam Cassell. Sam Cassell was a great player in this league for a number of years. He's been an assistant coach for a number of years. He's never got that opportunity. And if you look at every squad he's been with, Keyshawn, as an assistant coach, they've been pretty successful. So he's had his hand in there. You can ask Doc Rivers, who I saw the other day. We was talking about Sam. He knows the game extremely well. The players respect him. He's got a pedigree from that bench on being on championship caliber teams. So without a doubt to me, is that they just at least bring him in and give him an interview. So Sam Cassell would be somebody who I would take very seriously.
So as you know, being a part of the Lakers family organization, whatnot, working in television, the name that keeps popping up, obviously, right, is J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick, because he has a podcast with LeBron James. So obviously people start trying to connect the dots. And J.J. hasn't come out and said, I'm not interested. And LeBron barely came out and said, I'm not involved in the search. How you being a former head coach, former coach of the year, gone to the championship twice, an assistant coach that set his butt down for a little bit to understand how to coach. How difficult is it, though, Byron, to be a head coach in the NBA without just coming off the streets, essentially, and coaching the team without you didn't sit on the bench. Sam Cassell sat on the bench before. J.J. Redick has not. How difficult would that be?
Ask Steve Nash. You know what I mean? No coaching experience. It is very, to me, if you really want to be a head coach in the NBA, you got to sit behind the bench, because that's 6 inches over is a huge, decision to make. But being on the bench and kind of seeing everything that's happening out there, seeing the coaches, giving your advice, listening to the head coaches and other assistant coaches is invaluable. But coming out of the streets, just jumping in on that seat, that's a hot seat. And it's even hotter here in L.A. So JJ, he has obviously basketball experience, played in the NBA, had a long career and things of that nature, but you still need some type of experience, and sitting behind a bench or sitting on a bench, for a year or two will never hurt anybody.
See, and I could be wrong, but I don't ever remember a first-time head coach with no sitting on the bench experience thriving and having success. I mean, I can go to Jay Kidd in Milwaukee, basically off the streets, to go coach Milwaukee, but it wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't what they wanted. Right. At the end of the day, I mean, obviously Giannis, it wasn't what they expected. Right. Then he got a little, got the experience, and then he became, obviously, we see him now with Dallas as a much better head coach. And I know a lot of people will point to Steve Kerr and say, "Oh, Steve Kerr." I'm like, but Steve Kerr was in the front office. That's a big difference. Yeah. He was talking to the coaches on a daily basis. And players on a daily basis, opposed to coming out off the streets or coming out of the booth like a JJ would. Right. So different.
Yeah, when you in the front office, you got a really good idea and feel for what's going on with your team and that organization. When you're coming off the streets, you have no idea. So you going in with blinders on because you have no clue what's really going on. Now, you can listen to other people and they can tell you what's happening in the organization, but if you're not in the organization, you're not really still not going to get that sense of what's going on. So I still believe, like you just said, Steve Kerr came from the front office, but if you look at everybody else who's been successful, Jay Kidd was in Brooklyn first. Yeah. Then he goes to Milwaukee. Then now you look at him now.
I meant Brooklyn, not Milwaukee.
But he had both. Yeah. You know what I mean? And now look at how he's learned and where he's got the Dallas Mavericks at now. I mean, that experience and that time is invaluable, for any coach, young or old. So again, bringing somebody in off the street, and I'm not saying JJ is coming off the street, but we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
JJ having no experience whatsoever, it's going to be extremely difficult for him to not only lead this organization, any organization, but when you're talking about the Los Angeles Lakers, we're talking about a team and an organization that thrives on winning championships. So you coming in with even more added pressure. Somebody like a Sam Cassell who's been around for this 20 plus years probably as an assistant coach. He's seen everything.
Yeah.
So that's 6 inches over.
It's his time.
Yeah, that 6 inches over ain't gonna phase him.
So when you look at it, do you think LeBron was in Cleveland for the playoff game the other day. Mm-hmm. Some people would think that he's trying to send a message to people saying, look at me, I'm here, you better do what I need you to do. Do you think he plays in LA? He ends his career as a Laker?
I think so. I really do. I think so. I think if LeBron is very, very into the history of NBA basketball. I think he knows that you want to kind of leave your legacy here.
Yeah.
This should be your last stop. Jumping around to another team, I think it kind of tarnishes your legacy a little bit.
If he stays in LA,
yeah,
should and will his son join him in a Laker uniform? Should he, number one, and would he, number two?
I think number two, would he? Yes. Should he? I don't know. I think it would be great for LeBron and Bronny to be there together, because I know that's his dream, is to play with his son. And I think after he does that, he'll probably ride off in the sunset. I know Bronny, in the NBA compounds did a lot better than a lot of people thought, that he would. But been watching this kid from high school, watching him at SC. Bronny got some game. He got a lot to learn, and I would love for him if I was involved with him in any way, as an advisor or anything, I would have said, stay in college one more year. Stay there one more year. But young man wants to fulfill his dream too. He wants to get to the NBA, and I hope he does, and I hope LeBron gets his wish to be able to play with his son. Now, if it's going to be in a Laker uniform or not, I don't know yet.
So the Knicks took a tough Game 7 loss against your Pacers this past weekend. Here's what Colin Cowherd had to say.
But the key to the Knicks here, get a star, don't screw with the culture. It's going to take patience and thought and self-awareness. Listen, talent, skill eventually get you titles. But Heat culture has gotten you to finals when you probably didn't have the skill. So the Warriors had a culture. The Heat have had it with Spoelstra and Pat Riley forever. One of the stronger cultures in the league. They look and play differently than everybody else is the Knicks. Tweak it, add some skill. But I would take this season, despite that loss, over the last 20, and not just because you got to within a game of the Eastern Conference Finals. What you found and created and built had been missing since Pat Riley coached.
So, Byron, is it as simple as the Knicks getting a star and not screwing up the culture to compete for a title next seson?
I kind of agree with what Colin's talking about, though.
Yeah.
As far as culture, I mean, you don't want to screw that up. You got a bunch of guys on that Knicks team right now that play together just like we've been talking about. Like I said earlier, if you got good talent and great culture or great chemistry, you'll win a lot of games. And so I think they do have to tweak it a little bit. They got to get maybe one or two more players. And we also got to take in consideration they had all these guys out for the playoffs that were hurt. But I think they headed definitely in the right direction. They're tough. They got that New York feel. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Right now, they got that New York feel. Keyshawn, you was in New York. You know how the people are in New York. They got that New York feel right now. And they got the people back behind them. Knick basketball is back popular again in New York. And that's great, not only in New York, but that's great for the NBA as well.
I think if anything, the culture is fine. You don't need to touch the
don't
culture.
Mess with it. Yeah.
But you got to go get you a player, right? Is that player trying to figure out what Giannis wants to do in Milwaukee, right? Does that mean something? Because you got assets, you got cap space. Does it mean that I now go get Paul George and wrestle him away from the Clippers and add that piece to the equation? But they certainly need somebody outside of Bronson. I know DiVincenzo had a great playoff run, but you need somebody outside of Jalen Bronson to put up some points and play some defense.
Yeah, but
who are some potential guys?
Yeah, and I was going to say, you just got to figure out who that is that fits in that culture with the certain guys that you have now. And that's going to be the key for New York, is really just going and seeing all the stars that you have that are available but which one is the best fit for the way they play the game of basketball?
Yeah.
Which recently eliminated team do you think has the best chances of winning next season? The Knicks, the Thunder, the Cavs, or the Nuggets?
That's a good question.
Next summer? Next
summer?
season?
Next season?
Like, they should feel the best
Man.
about their chances. Just
The Nuggets.
Yeah, I would say the Nuggets. I would. I mean, the only other team I would throw in there is probably the Thunder. You know, that young nucleus of guys that they have. And again, just like Minnesota, which I love, you know, Big Cat and Ant's interview when they was talking about how much losing we got to do. We lost last year. We lost 2 years. He's right. Yeah, last 20 years. You know, the Thunder losing this year, having, you know, the number 1 seed, I think that's going to benefit them in the long run.
The Thunder's a good one, good choice, B, but what they got to do, in my opinion, is they got to, first of all, not get fat, but strength on Chet.
Yeah.
He's got to get some strength.
Yeah.
Man, the dude was running around, falling on the ground like Bambi. I mean, it was. I was like,
he's 7'3", 7'4", 7 whatever.
But he's
he is.
7'3", 7'4", 100 pounds.
I'm about to say he's about 180 pounds. He got to get to that. You know, he got to get. And I mean, and he's young. We all know that. It's going to take him time to get that weight on him. But he's got to get about 20 pounds of muscle on him.
Just
like you said, they got to be
That's
fat.
what
20
Giannis
pounds
used
of
to
muscle.
look like.
No, Giannis didn't look like that.
I feel like
this dude,
not
this dude
thin,
got carrot sticks for arms.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. And get a stout backup for him.
An enforcer.
An enforcer. They got to get somebody else.
Yeah,
that's
they can
an enforcer.
bang with him. Yeah, they can
and I
bang
think
when he
they'll
goes
be
out the
all right.
game. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's why they
him.
loved Adams so much.
Yeah.
Steven Adams, because that was him.
Man, he was
that enforcer.
Man, they was pushing this dude around.
Well,
that
yeah,
dude lively dunked on him, and I'm like, see, he's skinnier than you.
And the Mavericks don't even have that many bigs. Yeah.
No, but if he works his butt off this summer, and like we talked about, if he gained 20 pounds of just muscle, he gonna be a beast.
No, he's a good player.
He wasn't backing down. He's just too light in the butt. You know, they were just throwing him all over the place, but he wasn't like backing down. He's just too light.
All right. So Anthony Edwards, like we said, we led to Minnesota their first conference finals in over 2 decades after defeating the defending champs in Game 7. Do you guys think he's officially the new face of the NBA?
I'm not going to give him that yet, but I tell you what, I love watching this kid play. I love him on the basketball court. He's a 22-year-old guy that's got old school in him. You know, he holds himself accountable, holds his teammates accountable. If you listen to him when he's mic'd up, he's positive. He's always giving his guys, you know, nothing but positive energy and an attitude. He's a great leader on that team, even though Mike Conley is that veteran leadership that they need. But this kid right now, I think right now I wouldn't say he's a face of the league, but you can almost sketch it in there because I'm telling you what, you know, he's been coming for, you know, all season long, but he is now here. There's no doubt about it.
You know, people always say the face of leagues and stuff like that, but I look at it, Keyshawn, and I say it's hard to be the face of the league when you in Minnesota.
Yeah, well, you got to be in LA, Chicago, New York. Bigger market, put it that way.
It's hard
no
in
doubt.
Minnesota. And, well, social media doesn't matter.
No.
Yes, times have changed. It's different. But it doesn't matter that social media is around and people consume things different than normal television.
Yeah.
When I look at the face of leagues, how many times am I seeing him on national commercials? When I talk about face of the league, I'm looking at Steph Curry. He's on national commercials all the time. Or I'm looking at Chris Paul all the time.
Yeah.
You know, so even to the point where Joker's now, all the time, I'm looking at commercials and I see Joker. When Ant-Man starts to develop that on a constant basis, when the league is putting him in the NBA commercials, State Farm or Sprite or whatever it is, McDonald's or whatever it is that's sponsored by the NBA, that's when I'm starting to say, okay, he the face of the league now. Because that's the way they do it.
He getting there.
No, but he's getting
but he's
there.
not the face of the league. You know, that's what I said. Pencil it in. You know, don't draw it in there yet.
So,
you know,
Byron,
but that face is getting close.
I'm assuming you're not buying into the comparison to Michael Jordan then?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that to him.
But
yet.
I do.
I can't do that to him, Keyshawn. Not yet. But I mean, if you look at their trajectory,
that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, if you're looking at their trajectory, you can say he's the closest thing since Kobe. To Michael, no doubt about that. But I want to give him a few more years. That's all I want to do. I want to give him a few more years.
That's fair.
To see where he is. Because, again, he's 22.
Yes.
Right? Kobe, it took him 4 years. You know, it took MJ 4 years or so before he found out and figured out how to win. Maybe this kid's on a different trajectory, but he is definitely in that way. You know, he's headed that way.
Yeah.
But it's just hard for me to do that to him right now. You know,
But see, you're
it's
not
just hard for
doing
me.
it. Everybody says that, but I'm not looking at the finished product of Michael.
Right.
Nobody
Right.
will ever
No,
be
no.
that.
No. Okay, so you're
it's
looking
just
at the beginning.
first 4 years. And even if you look at the first 4 years, okay, Michael's accolades, he's got some different accolades than Ant-Man. Like Ant-Man hadn't won the scoring title yet.
Right.
Hadn't been on the all-defensive team yet.
Right.
You know, hadn't won MVP, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But now I could get rid of that, push that aside and say, well, Michael didn't go to the NBA Finals in his 4 years, and now this kid is embarking up on an NBA Final appearance, let alone may even win it.
Right.
So it's like, but
It's apples and oranges. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a you know what? It's a great topic and it's a great
but it's not
thing
even
to talk about because of his trajectory
Just
right now.
his
That's
trajectory.
why it's such a great topic.
Yeah,
You know,
no, it
because
is.
He's the closest thing since Kobe.
But
to Michael.
I don't even look at the accolades as much as I do some of the things from a skill set standpoint that I watched Michael and Kobe with the turnaround, or I watched them just flush on people, get out the way. I'm a jump in the air, but I'm gonna hang while everybody else go and hit the ground. I'm gonna still be in the air.
Right.
That's the sort of stuff that I look at. Or I look at a killer instinct where all of a sudden I'm gonna walk into a three and dead center, just knock it down and go up by 10. When that just puts the dagger in the team with 4 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah.
That's what I look at, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
and that's a good way to look at it. You're not looking at the finished product, like you said.
No,
You're
you
looking at
can't.
let's look at the first 4 or 5 years.
You can't.
And again, that to me, still, you got to give him a couple of more years because
Yeah.
he ain't there yet. Michael, let's go with Michael's first 4 or 5 years. Like you said, they barely made the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know, they were getting beat by Boston because he was basically a one-man team. So Ant on that trajectory alone is right there. And at his age right now, he's a better shooter than Michael. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, he handles, he gets where he wants to go to. So the comparison is real. But I want to get it to the point where I want to see where he is after 5 years in the league.
Yeah.
And see where, now let's compare Michael to him or Kobe to him and let's see what happens.
See, they also, Keyshawn, the Luka Larry Bird comparison is starting to happen, but that's because they both two slow white dudes in people's eyes. But Larry Bird wasn't slow.
I was about to say, and Luka ain't close.
And Luka's slow. Larry Bird Larry Bird, because he white, people assume he was slow. I'm like, Larry Bird a long way from being slow.
He wasn't as slow as people think he was.
Luka's slow.
Luka's
I
slow.
don't think Luka's that slow though. He just
Luka's
goes
slow.
slow.
That's slow.
how he plays. Like shot.
If you go slow, you're slow.
Yes.
He can accelerate, but
Accelerate where? His first dribble? Yeah, that's it.
So we were talking about earlier being done with the 80s and 90s. Looking at the playoffs right now, there's no Curry, no LeBron, no Harden, no CP3.
Right.
So has the new era of basketball begun?
It's getting there. Again, I think we real quick to jump to conclusions that, Curry and all those guys
are done.
Are done. And that, most of the time when you do that to guys like that, they come back with a vengeance.
They just won a championship 2 years ago when everybody was saying,
they were done
the dynasty's over in Oakland.
They were done then, right. So that's just giving them more fuel to the fire. When you got guys like that, it's like Kobe back in the day. They listen to that bulletin material. That gets them going for the next year. But you also have to give props to this new generation of guys like Ant-Man, who has, come on the stage and has made everybody take notice of who he is and what he can do. And we all know, NBA-wise, next year Minnesota will be on national TV a little bit more because of this kid and the way he's been playing. But am I ready to pass the baton? Not yet. You still got to show me more.
But even when you think about, they talk about the 80s and 90s are gone. Well, Tatum them been in the thing 6 of the last 8 times, man.
Right.
And they ain't won a chip yet.
Nothing, yeah.
Nothing. So how many times we gonna keep on talking about what Boston is gonna do before they
win
find
this year?
Maybe they will.
Maybe.
If they don't, it's a shame because this is their best opportunity. Think about it. They went through Miami with no Jimmy Butler, no Rozier.
Absolutely.
They went through they missed out on the Knicks, who was all hurt.
Right.
Philadelphia was hurt.
Yeah, they went
with
to
Embiid.
Cleveland when they had,
Donovan Mitchell sat down.
Yep.
So the teams that they went through all had issues. The teams that didn't make it, Philly and Milwaukee, they had issues.
Yep.
So this is the best time. And on top of that, Denver got bounced by Minnesota. So you have no experience as far as getting to a championship from Minnesota's standpoint there. And Dallas, the same thing. Kyrie gets a championship with LeBron in Cleveland, But Luka's only been in the Western Conference Final. That's the furthest he's been.
Right,
So
right.
you still going up against a team with a lack of experience as far as the championship go. If you see one of those two, because I'm assuming they come out of the East, and if they don't win,
I am too.
and
I'm
if they
assuming
don't win,
too.
that's a disaster for Boston.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is their best opportunity in a long time to win a championship. It seems like the stars are aligned with them. Like you said, first round, you don't have Jimmy Buckets, which made it easier for them. Second round, you got a Cleveland team. Donovan Mitchell, he's hurt, he's out. You get Indiana, who seems to be pretty relatively healthy and playing at a high level. So this is going to be their biggest challenge, to get to the finals, which I don't think is going to be much of a challenge, to be honest with you. And like I said, I would love for the Pacers to win this series. I just don't see it happening. So this road to the finals for the Boston Celtics this year might be the easiest that they've ever had. So they better take advantage of it.
Last question for you. If you're a betting man, who is the Lakers head coach at the start of the season? If you're a betting man.
If I'm a betting man, I'm going to say J.J. Redick. If I'm a betting man, because of what all we know, I'm going to say J.J. Redick. But, again, my heart and hoping that they do the right thing as far as, really bringing in all these guys and setting them down and doing interviews and checking out, because experience to me counts. And I think Sam Cassell would be a great fit for the Lakers.
Thanks a lot, B-Man.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure.
Always a pleasure. Yes,
Okay.
sir, Junior. Appreciate you.
That's a wrap for today's show. Thanks again to Byron Scott for joining the show. And don't forget about our All Facts Pod giveaway. Win a signed football by me. Now subscribe to All Facts Pod on your YouTube. Send us a screenshot. We'll pick the winner. And after we hit 100,000 subscribers, we'll get to you. All right. Until then, peace. And you know my name. I don't need to say it again. It's Keyshawn. I said it anyway.